What's going on, guys? It's C Grand here with my Fireside Gathering deck lists. For those of you who don't know, there was a Fireside Gathering in Toronto this past weekend. I finished second place, losing out to Azure. Really nice guy. I played him in Swiss and knocked him out to do some unfortunate draws on my part. I had combo turn 9 on mana and it was enough to kill him, and you know, stuff like that. But he got me back in the winners finals. He won out through the losers bracket. But yeah, so I was really happy with my performance this weekend. There were some small sequence errors towards the end. In Grand Finals, there was a pretty specific big one that could have changed the entire set, where I decided to play an Azure Drake instead of Hellfiring. But you know, I've already gone back, watched the VODs. For the most part, I think I played pretty well. But you know, one of the big things I keep repeating on my channel is like looking at what you did and like how can I do this better. But like, you know, that's gonna be one of the reoccurring themes on my channel. So yeah, I was super happy with my deck choices. So the first deck I have here is the one I think that got the most confusion. This deck is like really much better the less your opponents know about it, but a lot of the commentators and everyone, they were all very curious about this deck. So this is Combolock, based on Zalae's Combolock. So without further ado, I'll get into the deck list. Also, before I do, I want to give a big shout out to all the casters, commentators, and TOs. This was amazing. It was the first Fireside we had with the stream. Big shout outs to Chris, Daniel, everyone else. There are people I'm forgetting. You guys have to add me on Facebook because I didn't get all your names. But for sure, add me. I'll post this. So, Combolock. The goal with this deck is it's a control deck, but you have a big finisher. It plays around BGH, doesn't play any BGH targets. It's very strong in that manner, and it is pretty easy to play around mind control tech. So, two of the hot tech cards you're able to play around. The combo is the Power Overwhelming with the Arcane Golem and Faceless Manipulator for 10 mana, and that deals 24 damage, because you go double Power Overwhelming on the Arcane Golem, Faceless Manipulator, target the Arcane Golem, and then that's 12 and 12, and you're able to charge. So yeah, that's the main combo of the deck. Now I'm going to go over the whole deck. So 2 Mortal Coil, this card is really strong, hits Clockwork Gnomes, a lot of Hunter cards. You're able to like silence Azure Drakes and Mortal Coil them in mirrors, well, you know, mirrors like Handlock. So yeah, really strong card. I thought about cutting it back after the Undertaker nerf. I was just thinking there'll be less aggro and this card won't be as strong, but this card is still very strong. 2 Power Overwhelming goes well with the combo. Sometimes you're able to use this with Implosion, which I also play. It's not ideal, but if you spend one of these, your combo is still 16 damage at burst, which is also still really big. So yeah, this card's really great. I did have to use it very awkwardly in a couple of my tournament matches, but you use this to keep you in the game. If you're about to lose, there's no point in holding this card like for the combo, because you're not going to reach it anyway if you die, so... play this card smart. Ideally, you would like to hold it, but you have to think realistically, like, can I still win the game if I spend this? Will I lose if I don't spend this? So yeah, play this with caution. 2 Zombie Chow, great card against aggro, great card against, it's probably the best 1-drop right now. Super strong. You always want to mulligan to get this card early, because the later you have this card, the worse it is. If you have this card in the endgame, for example, healing them an extra 5 health can be a big deal, especially if you've spent Power Overwhelming already. So yeah, really strong card. I think I would just keep it. I don't think I'd cut it. 2 Dark Bomb. Really solid removal card, also an extra 3 damage at burst. Just a really strong card. This card plays out awkwardly a lot of the time, so I've, like in the tournament, I Dark Bombed a Boombot so it hit me in the face, and then BGH the other one and silenced the other Boombot. It looked really bad on paper, but because you draw so much, you're always going to have advantage on your opponent, so this card can be a really good throwaway card to, like, stabilize and make sure your opponent doesn't get... Like, you want to keep the board with this deck, that's another thing, with your bigger creatures, which are coming up. 2 Ironbeak Owl, this card's really strong, silence is really strong, helps you push through taunts, if you want to, like, 16, or no, you can do a 12 damage combo and an Ironbeak Owl and get through taunt, which is really cool. Arcane Golem, the key combo piece. Sometimes you use this card with Power Overwhelming to kill a big threat if you're going to die anyway. It's not ideal, it actually feels really disgusting, but you do what you got to do to stay in the game. BGH, this card was phenomenal the whole event. I hit a Malorn in a Druid deck that was playing him. I BGH Dr. Booms all day. It still felt great, even though they had the Boombots, because this deck has a lot of good ways to deal with the Boombots. And Owl, Yeah, so this card's awesome. 2 Earthen Ring Farseer. This deck does get really low on health due to tapping and sometimes not having a play early on in the game if you like miss your removal in the mulligan. It's kind of hard to though because you play every piece of removal this deck has. So yeah, really strong card. Also 3/3 for 3 is a really good body. You can use this card to heal your minions. Usually it'll be an Azure Drake if you're going to heal a minion, but most of the time it heals face. 2 Hellfire. This card's awesome. Really strong AoE. This deck needs it against like Mech Mage. This card is also an extra 3 damage a burst. This card is not as strong in like say Druid matchups, but it can still like it runs away with a lot of games. This card is insane. Excuse me. 2 Implosion, really strong removal. I wish this card wasn't so RNG, but it's too strong not to play. So even hitting a 3 is good. Hitting a 2 is a little eh. But 4 mana 2 damage for 2 1/1s is not as good, but 4 mana for 3 damage and 3 1/1s is really good, and 4 is obviously the nuts. So yeah, this card's really strong. Really shines in like the Mage matchup, which I was expecting to see a lot of. I actually only played I think 1 or 2 Mech Mage. I think it was 1, but I did see a lot of it at the tournament. I just somehow managed to dodge it, but I was ready for that matchup. This deck, I would say this deck has a really good matchup against Mech Mage, despite how it looks, because you go really low on health. So long as you're correctly playing around their burn and playing your heals at the correct times and you mulligan correctly, I think this deck is very strong against Mech Mage. So next we have Kazan Mystic. Again, this is a card that I put in to make myself stronger against Hunter, which I expected to see because it's been blowing up ESL. I forget whose deck it was, but they were going ham with Hunter, playing like arcane shots and stuff, so you can steal their secrets. Also, it just makes it so, like, against Fatigue Mage and Freeze Mage, those are pretty much unwinnable for this deck, but Kazan Mystic can put you back in the game. You steal one of their ice blocks, then they can't kill you for a turn, and then you have the option to push them that turn. It's a really strong card. It was really dead this weekend, I'm not gonna lie. Round 1, it won me a game because I was playing a Mech Mage, and I played this, stole a Mirror Entity. And then, that's so huge to steal a Mirror Entity, because this card doesn't trigger Mirror Entity, it takes it before Mirror Entity has a chance to activate. In testing, I've also stolen, like, Snake Traps, Duplicates, stuff like that. So this card is super strong. It's also not a bad body. I did play it a couple times just as a 4/3, and it actually won me a game randomly, being just enough damage. So, if I was going to cut this card, I would consider Sylvannas, but Sylvannas always felt really slow to me. You can do cool things with Sylvannas by, like, playing Sylvannas, power overwhelming it, stealing their minion, or just playing Sylvannas because it is a strong creature, but overall, Sylvannas felt too slow for me. It felt like, let's say, another piece of removal that couldn't get the job done on the same turn for me, so ultimately Kazan Mystic in testing, because I was expecting so much Mech Mage, I still think this is, like, perfect. I feel like this is correct right now, but this is a slot that you could change around for tech cards if you guys wanted to try other stuff. 2 Twilight Drake, this card is awesome. Silence is pretty big. If this card gets silenced, it's a 4/1, but then, let's say against Druid, they keeper it. They still have to have 6 mana and, like, use their ability and hit it, which is, like, if you can get this card early on, this is ideal. You want this against a lot of matchups because you get to 4 mana so quickly, and then you usually have 8 to 10 cards in hand, like, all the time, so this card's great. You can draw it early game, late game when you draw this card, like, around 10 mana, it tends to be a 5 or 6 Twilight Drake because you start emptying out your hand, burning your removal, and you start moving more of your cards to the board. But, fantastic card. So I do play 2 Antique Healbot. I did mention I played the full suite of healing. This card is fantastic. You can throw this card, it's my favorite card outside of maybe Owl and Zombie Chow to throw into Mirror Entity. Shoutouts to Ian, who keeps coming on and offline. I did play him in the tournament. Really nice guy. Again, I got some unfortunate luck on him. Played really well. But yeah. Anyway, getting back to the deck. Anti-Healbot, one of my favorite things. So, another thing I might mention is small stuff to play around Mirror Entity. Obviously, Kazan Mystic is the best way to play around a secret, but throwing an Earthen Ring Farseer into a Mirror Entity isn't ideal, but it's doable. Ironbeak Owl is good because you get to silence something of theirs and they only get a 2/1, and then I did have a couple scenarios where I Ironbeak Owled and Mortal Coiled to get around Mirror Entity. Dropping a Zombie Chow is good because you can kill it and get that heal, so, you know, it's pretty good. Especially later game, because if they put up Mirror Entity, they're hoping to steal something huge. If you just have one of these sitting in your hand, it's like, oh, it makes that dead card into a useful piece. Faceless Manipulator is for the combo, but this card came up in the weekend to be very interesting. At one point, an opponent of mine had Mirror Entity, and then I Faceless Manipulated my 3/1 Earthen Farseer, I think, and then I Mortal Coiled and got the draw, and then it was like enough damage to kill. So really good card, really interesting. It brings up so many cool plays. One of the other cool things I like about this is you can play Faceless, steal a Rag, and then BGH the Rag for 8 mana, which is like so crazy. It's such a huge board swing. But then you have to keep in mind that play, you're giving up combo, and you're also making their BGHs live. So you have to be very, very careful with that. If that's kind of like if it wins you the game kind of scenario, do it. If not, then this card, I would say most of the time is correct to hold on to. But use your better judgment. This deck isn't always going to win with the combo. In fact, in tournament, I chip people out more of the time. Like, I would just chip damage. You can check out the VODs in the description. I'll have the link to ESN, everyone. Next is Loatheb. This card was awesome throughout the weekend. It won me a game against Rogue. Just a really strong card. It's almost guaranteed to live, like, because it's 5/5 for 5. It's a pretty good body. You play this card, and most likely they're not going to have an efficient trade. So it's a really good board card. Amazing card. It's getting more spell heavy. Rogue is seeing popularity, so I thought this was a perfect pick. 2 Sludge Belcher, probably the best taunt, neutral taunt in the game. Because of Black Knight, this card, you know, isn't as strong, but you still get that one too. So, I did expect to see Black Knight this weekend, but this card was so strong. Keeps you alive. A lot of the times you just put it down so you can like dig for more cards. 2 Siphon Soul, really strong card, really great removal. It just hits like every card minus stealth cards. It's so good. Hits through Divine Shields, can hit Tyrion. They still get the weapon, mind you, but it's just such a strong card. My favorite piece of removal. And finally, we have a Black Knight, because there's a lot of big taunt druid going around. This hits Sludge Belchers. It's a really strong card, and you'll notice after that, I don't play anything else. I dodged BGH the whole weekend. This deck's really strong, kills with the combo. I'll probably make some videos of me playing this deck, but for now, I'm just going to get through all 3 decks that I played for the weekend. If you guys have any questions about mulligans, you have questions about, like, could you make a video versus this matchup, how do you feel about this matchup, leave comments below. This deck performed phenomenally for me all weekend. You just have to get a lot of hours in with this deck, I find, like in testing, because it's not a deck where you just look at it and you're like, oh, everything makes sense. You look at this, it looks like a mess on paper, but I promise you it is fantastic. So, I will see you guys in the next video, coming up with my other decks. So yeah, take care. Thank you for all the subscribers. I noticed I got a couple new ones since my last video. Thank you for the support, guys. Let me know what kind of stuff you want. Comments down below. It was great to see everyone. Add me on Facebook, Twitter, all that. I'll be posting this in the Facebook group, so peace!